Good morning. Can everybody please take your seats? Okay, everybody, the November 7th Board of Directors meeting is called to order. Please take your seats. First, I'd like to ask our interpreters to explain how to access interpretation. Please go ahead.
Good morning. I'm now my friend, the interpreter. To use interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Click on the interpretation icon, row, and select English as your language. If you're joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., please press ellipsis, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on the mute original audio to not hear the original Spanish low in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you're in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Aviso por parte del intérprete. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos y luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de reunión, favor de pedir auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples, who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States, from 4 cultural groups, the Kumeyaay, Digueño, the Luiseño, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from Indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. Now, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Michael, can you please confirm quorum?
We do have a quorum, Chair, with the cities of Chula Vista, La Mesa, Lemon Grove, Oceanside, and Poway absent.
Okay, let's move to non-agenda public comment. Could you please read your next script?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. If you're online, please raise your hand now. But for the purposes of civility and an orderly meeting, we kindly ask that you refrain from using loud, threatening, profane, or abusive language. For our board policy, the amount of time allowed for each verbal public comment is determined based on the number of agenda items, the complexity of those items, and the number of persons anticipated to offer comment. This allows us to hear from as many people as possible and to complete our business while we still have a quorum. Based on those factors, the chair has determined that today's meeting, each member of the public will be allowed 2 minutes for their comments. We have 3 in person and 3 online. First up is Purita Javier, followed by Cesar Javier.
Chandra, number 1. Good afternoon or good morning. I am Purita Javier, senior with existing medical condition and victim of ceramics toxicity from a home business next door that began operation in 1984. Number 2, I was not aware of the threat to my health and safety beginning in 1997, not until Cesar came to my life in 2012 as resident. Since then, our curiosity leads us in research of solutions, a journey almost 5 years without answer.
Number 3.
We are
Number 3.
number 3. At SANDAG, we witnessed in December 2024 executive meeting chaired then by Board Supervisor Nora Vargas declared the Tijuana River Valley pollution a crisis. And same declaration was read in the county board meeting and the APCD governing board meeting. Shortly, she stepped down. Number 4, San Diego City in its discussion in the council meeting chaired by Council President Luqadda voted no crisis. Reason, unintended consequences.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Cesar Javier, followed by Truth.
Just stay there. Just stay there, hold this. Good morning again. This is Cesar and Purita. I am just trying to imagine why can't an elected official cannot solve a basic problem, which is poison gas. Poison gas coming from a ceramics kiln next door that we breathe, predominantly Asian neighborhood, Latino neighborhood. Why? We tell you the long story in 1 minute because Councilor Luqadda has not given the feedback when he declared to us, Senior, Mr. Javier, I will talk to Councilor Rivera, your District 9 and our council, then President. We are waiting for the result of your gentlemanly pronouncement. I will talk to Councilor Rivera. And thank God, September 16, when I was judged by Councilor Luqadda, you crossed the line, Mr. Javier, and so we were escorted. While being escorted out of the Golden Hall, he declared for the second time, we will discuss your community concern at my office. Your staff gave me this card. We said, no more, sir, because you have pronounced already your action in December 2022. What we need, sir, no more discussion, but solution or action. You see what's going on at Tijuana River? You allowed
Your time
to
has
approve.
expired. Next is Truth, followed by Paul the Bold online.
Did you all see the video of the death of criminal Anthony McGaff on an MTS bus? The first thing he asked the driver is if he could get a free ride. The driver stupidly agreed, and sure enough, the guy assaulted a woman and violently broke her phone. Brave Samaritans responded, holding him down until he happened to die. The disgusting McGaff family is suing MTS, trying to pull an unjust penny case like what happened in New York. This nonsense is what SANDAG, MTS, and NCTD's bad policies like free rides results in. Don't ever forget that. Next, the first excuse to implement dangerous communist roundabouts was to stop traffic collisions. Well, a UT story entitled Local Stats Show North County Roundabouts Perform Poorly said, quote, traffic stats for 2 roundabouts indicate the devices may be causing more problems than they solve. Collisions have skyrocketed at a roundabout where Carlsbad Boulevard intersects with State Street. After fewer than 1 collision annually before the installation, there were 28 collisions in 2020 through 2024 after the roundabout. Also performing poorly is a roundabout in Encinitas, end quote. The second excuse to implement roundabouts is to increase the flow of traffic. Cars not stopping at roundabouts means they don't stop for pedestrians at crosswalks that are too close to those stupid roundabouts. Both drivers and pedestrians can't see each other because roundabouts act as blind spots. So it's the worst traffic safety idea ever. Lastly, the story of why I wear a hawk feather in my hat.
Back in 2023, Minto may remember, when I first started speaking in person, I faced much opposition. One of my haters went to the mic and stated he saw a hawk before the meeting, then said I should be locked up if I spoke for more than 60 seconds, and that the reason I was absent from that meeting was because the hawk must have taken me, the visitor, away. I did at the next meeting with a giant hawk feather in my hat and said, copy that, the hawk has landed. That hater eventually apologized, and we were good ever since. So the hawk feather is the perfect symbol of being both an outsider as well as a native and fighting for peace. Imagine that. What a crazy time that was. It's still crazy today. And is that Ed down there? Because I actually wanted to see Rebecca today. I'm kind of disappointed. Thank you.
Next is Paul the Bold online, followed by Leif Gensert.
Okay, hello. SANDAG has come a long way since I said this in 2023, but there are apparently still people here who foster a culture of secrecy and misinformation. The misinformation is a pity, since a lot of it may be lack of proofreading. The culture of secrecy needs to be cut out like cancer. What I said, quote, SANDAG continues to limit our free speech and cut down our speaking time. We do not have input into CEO selection once finalists are chosen. We should. Limiting our speaking time, interrupting us, cutting off our last sentences is perpetuating the disrespect you want us to avoid. It is not conducive to an atmosphere of tolerance. Holding 3 consecutive closed sessions at the beginning of the meeting reeks of disrespect for people who give their time to participate in the public process. You should be honored to have our free advice, unquote. And now you're trying to include the whole county as voting members. That's wonderful. I congratulate you on making many of the other needed changes, but there's a lot of work to be done to gain the public's full trust. The California Constitution says the people have a right of access to the agencies the people have the right of access to information concerning the conduct of the people's business, and therefore the meetings of public bodies and the writings of public officials and agencies shall be open to public scrutiny.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Leif Gensert, followed by Consuelo, and the public comment list is closed. Go ahead, Leif.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. Hello, my name is Leif Gensert. I'm the Vice President of RightSD, a local advocacy group for better public transport all over the county. And in the next couple of weeks and months, we will hear a lot about the Regional Plan 2025. RightSD read the regional plan. We are not satisfied with the propositions. You scaled down ambitious projects like the Purple Line. There's no mentioning of heavy rail anymore. It was cut in half. The projects that are still in there are, if well implemented, we endorse. However, the bus routes on highways always are subject to how they're implemented. So if they're not properly separated, if they have to share car lanes, they are not worth the paper that they're written on. So I want to encourage SANDAG to push back on this plan to implement proper public transport infrastructure, to implement proper public transport projects to help all people all over the county. This is all I got. We will talk later about the proposed financial shift in the regional plan. But yeah, as a summary, SANDAG, please reject this regional plan and implement proper transportation projects. Thank you.
Next is Consuelo, followed by Blair Beekman.
Okay, was that Klaus Schwab? Anyways, okay, Consuelo here, and it's becoming harder and harder to ignore the hypocrisy playing out in front of us. We live in a time where corruption is no longer hidden. It's performed openly, and yet most people remain silent. Why? Because society has become systematically dumbed down, distracted, and conditioned to accept the unacceptable. People have been taught to feel powerless, to believe their voice doesn't matter, and to look to the same systems that created the problem for solutions. This isn't by accident. This is by design, like those stupid roundabouts. When people lose their critical thinking, when they forget their worth, their innate authority, the few in power have free reign to do whatever they please. We're told this board and every other board that exists to serve the people. And we're told about that through this board and every other board. Anyways, so many have become political puppets serving hidden agendas, obviously, this group as well, under the illusion of public service. The policies, the projects, the partnerships, they're all a part of the same theater. And so, but here's the silver lining. They need us more than we need them. This entire system only functions because we comply, because we consent, because we forget our power. The reality is we don't need them at all. We've just been programmed to think we do. So today I'm asking those who are listening to remember and to wake up to the smoke and mirrors and to question everything. Stand in your own authority because the truth is simple. The moment we remember who we are, their control ends, along with those stupid bike lanes. Thank you.
Next is Blair Beekman, followed by Andrea Ebbing.
Hi, thank you, Blair Beekman. Thanks that you took my public comment. I was a bit slow to raise my hand. It's sometimes tough to get to the raise hand feature. Thank you that you acknowledged my public comment. I wanted to comment that I spoke in executive committee about these subjects. I think I'm hoping we're doing an interesting job here in San Diego and in LA to be addressing over-militarization of our ICE agents in local neighborhoods. I think we can be really asking that if they are going to do raids, they have to do it in a way that isn't overly militarized. And I think that's a fair ask. And we can really ask that and demand that. And that creates mediation. And it's important how we develop that. In the San Francisco Bay Area, they did some awesome work. Both the San Francisco mayor and I'm learning the San Jose mayor had a bit of a part in the process that, the ICE agents and federal agents aren't going to be swooping into the Bay Area at this time. They really asked them to say, no, we're working on violent crime issues. We're having our own way to address these issues. Please respect that. And Trump did, and he stepped back. On top of all of that, the San Jose, Santa Clara County area is receiving security funding for the Super Bowl from federal agencies at this time. So they're getting federal funding dollars to continue working on their violent crime programs. So they're in a completely exactly how the world should be, basically. Now, how do we now start working with other cities of the country to describe how they can address their own best practices to the feds so they don't bring in more ICE agents, and describe, what is a good mediation process? Man, we have the tools to be working towards best practices as a country this time. So, man, let's do it. We can really do it. Thank you.
Next is Andrea Ebbing, followed by our last public comment, the original draw.
Hi, my name is Andrea Ebbing, and local media, I really want you to hear this out. I was introduced to a lovely woman recently and a group of people that work for SDG&E. And SDG&E, just as you might suspect, has a plan with a new contracting company and a new plan to displace decades-long loyal employees and replace them with mass groups of people in India to take over their jobs. There's people that have been there for 17 years, 40 years, people that have dedicated their lives to being faithful servants to SDG&E, who appear for work for a celebration one day, only to be greeted by a large group of security guards who are there to remove them immediately. And guess what? Just like Consuelo said, just like Consuelo mentioned earlier, the chaos by design, they have completely blindsided these people. They have hurt these people, and now they want them to train their replacements. Most of these jobs are in finance and admin. By design, they have a lot of chaos coming to them so that when all these financial transactions and all these different things take place as a result of maybe these people are a little bit upset. They're training people from India to take over their jobs. How are they going to provide for their families? We're displacing local workers. We're displacing people who, dedicated their lives. And now what jobs are they going to go and find in this marketplace? It's a big deal. And it's not being reported to the media because they made the cut just under the amount of people that they would have to disclose it to the media. People are very upset, and you should really look into this because I think we're gearing up for controlled chaos so that they can't pinpoint the error. Thank you.
Thank you. Your time has expired. And our last public comment is the original draw.
Out of chaos comes order, right? Corruption runs rampant in the county of San Diego and across the world. And it's interesting because the people fund it and they allow it. And it's so sad because they can stop it. But, people pull wool over people's eyes and, the cognitive dissonance is rather, crazy because people don't want to believe that this kind of stuff happens and that they would actually have to do something about it. But it's really disturbing to know the way that you guys talk about the border and how it's always been secure and all of these things, and we're creating a new port of entry and it's going to be so great, but we never talk about the trafficking that happens across that border, how there are border patrol agents that are complicit. The government is complicit in the trafficking that happens, whether it's drugs or human beings, and you guys want to act like this is a way for people to get from Mexico to America. Yeah, it's also more of a way because there's billions of dollars. Like, talk about the commerce that you guys love to talk about. Think about the black market commerce that's going on back there. And I want to know what kickbacks you guys are getting to allow that to happen, to stay silent and to sit there and spin the reality by saying that this is all, nothing's going on. Like, you guys always want to be like, there's nothing to see here. Even though we know it happens, it happens, like I was saying to the executive committee, from Tijuana into the commercial buildings in Otay Mesa and in tunnels. But then again, it happens across the border. And the $13 million in heroin that was just seized, it's like, those are the ones that have been seized. Think about the ones that haven't, that have been allowed to come through. And, there's tips that will be, said so that you can, say that you're combating the crime. So you can, pretend like we're really stopping, the drugs from coming across. San Diego has a fentanyl problem. And what's also going on? They're giving pipes and needles and Narcan instead of actually stopping the problem. So this is absolutely ridiculous that you guys never address that. And we're going to be opening up a new port of entry for more drugs to come through. Good job, you guys.
That concludes our non-agenda public comment, Chair.
Thank you very much. We're now on to non-agenda member comments. I see Mayor Gasterlin is up.
Thank you so much. So we've been watching the geotechnical drilling in Del Mar, and there are 3 places in particular, 4th Street in Stratford, 10th Street in Camino Del Mar and Seaview, that are in the middle of our residential neighborhoods. So SANDAG has very much been under the scrutiny of many, many Ring doorbells as they have been drilling. So the question that's come up over and over is, what's down there? What are they finding? And so we're hoping that the data tables of these 2-foot chunks of 15-foot samples that are going 200 feet down can be made available so that the geotech engineers who live in Del Mar can analyze the data for you.
We'll take note of that. Normally, a lot of the geotech results, take a while to analyze, and then they get incorporated with a much broader amount of data, and that's what builds the draft environmental document. But let us look into what's in the realm.
Well, we were told by some of the drillers that they struck coal.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Mayor McKay.
Thank you, Chair Heidner. I just wanted to take a moment and recognize CEO Orso and his staff for their recent input to the U.S. Trade Representative USMCA solicitation for inputs. We appreciate SANDAG participating in this effort. I think all the South County cities will benefit from your comments and your salient recommendations. And so we just wanted to recognize you and your staff. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got one announcement, and that's that we'll be canceling next month's executive committee meeting on December 12th to allow the board meeting to begin at 9 a.m. We have a very, very hefty agenda that day. That hopefully we'll be able then to get through that agenda. If not, just make sure that you kind of clear your afternoon a little bit so we can maintain our quorum because we have important things to vote on. All right, I'll turn it over to Mario for his update.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of updates. Yesterday, our senior regional planning director, Antoinette Meyer, spoke in a panel where it was a joint meeting between the California Transportation Commission, the California Air Resources Board, and the lead of the Housing Department for the state. This presentation was together with the rest of other MPOs at the state talking about the conformity lockdown and what could be the what ifs potentials if there's no consensus on navigating how we can prove that we're within air conformity. Right now, with the lockdown or the waivers removed, there is no consensus between the state and the federal government on what mechanism is used to provide the information that we are or we're not in conformity. The good thing is that the state has submitted more documentation to EPA, and at the staff level, it seems that things are moving through, and hopefully we'll have it's called an MFAC model. Hopefully we will have that. For us, we should continue our process of getting a regional plan approved in December, and then we can submit it to the state and federal government. Hopefully by that time, there is an MFAC model that the federal government can see that we're within conformity. But we definitely want to basically put the ball on the state and the federal government's side by approving our regional plan. We are one of the first two agencies in the state who's going to have to deal with this issue. But it was a very robust conversation. I am convinced that we'll end up in a good place. But right now, our first point was to bring in this notice and this joint presentation. I think our team, Antoinette, did a great job together with the other MPOs, reflecting, as well as the state, Caltrans presented what could be the scenarios of not being in conformity and certain projects having to stop. Next week, I'll be together. Some of our team members are going to be at Focus on the Future conference in San Francisco, and we'll be participating in several roundtables, transportation roundtables. And like Mayor mentioned, McKay mentioned, we did submit a comment letter to the United States Trade Representative regarding the upcoming USMCA discussions and negotiations. Our region's concern involve Tijuana River pollution, need for border infrastructure modernization, and improved trade facilitation. So those were the three main pillars that we brought up in our comment letter. As an update, also at the border, this Monday was the notice to proceed to our contractor with package number 1 for Otay Mesa East. So technically, that has begun construction for the port of entry. I did want to inform the board on airport transit connection. We've been, several companies have approached us, and I wouldn't say companies, they're conglomerate of companies, have approached us with concepts of automated service to the airport. They're all a little bit different, and they all have an idea of a triple P. And of course, when people come and bring you a concept, it looks like a great idea, right? But the devil's in the details. So what we're doing is we did reach out to all the interested parties, MTS, the airport, the Port of San Diego, City of San Diego, and we're probably going to get together and organize on developing a shared vision of what everybody wants, and being able to deal with this because eventually it may become unsolicited proposals that may come in. Right now, they're just concepts that have been brought up to our attention, but we're trying to organize this so it's a shared vision with all the users, the operators, the owners of the right-of-way, all the agencies that will be involved. And we're kind of the convener to generate that discussion there. Also, there were some questions of why the Eastern Hillcrest Bikeway is having some delays. The major reason is that there's been unforeseen conditions, underground utilities. I think they told me that even a rail line that really old one, some pieces of it were coming out. The good thing is we're finishing the underground work, but those are some of the issues that we're dealing with. Also on the discussions that we had on continuous improvement and assessment for our different departments, like has been mentioned, OIPA's helping us with some. We internally kicked off our organizational assessment for the toll operations department this week. We're very excited. We're hoping to see getting a lot of best practices and evaluation of how we're managing our toll facilities, and getting recommendation of what are the areas of opportunities for improvement on that. In the how I began on the joint meeting between the CTC, CARP, and the housing department, we had the opportunity to chat with the director of the housing department. And we did mention to them that we will be working in developing preliminary regional maps to kind of assess SB 79 and what could be its potential impacts. We will develop our assumptions sheets. And we're doing this in advance because it's highly unlikely the HCD guidance will be available anytime soon. And we're getting a lot of questions from all of you of how is this going to impact my city, my area. So we are going to we mentioned to HCD, we're going to move forward with this. We're going to try to work with the other major MPOs and develop a joint assumption paper. But if not, we're just going to do it here at SANDAG. We're going to send it to HCD. Hopefully we'll get all the assumptions will be correct, but it's going to start helping us even in a draft format. Start evaluating the assessment of the potential pros and cons, let's say, of SB 79, and pass it on to all of you. And just finally, I want to remind everybody that SANDAG main office and customer center is going to be closed November 11th, this Tuesday, for our Veterans Day. And congratulations to all our veterans. Also, that concludes my report.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We'll now move on to the consent agenda. Michael, do we have any public comments?
We do. We have two in person. If you are online, please raise your hand now. First up is Caesar, followed by Truth.
Thank you, SANDAG. We have a stake on this thinking or thinkers association. The intents of our verbal and body language is focused on the core city elected officials, SANDAG's members. Minutes are to be respected and remembered. I would like to appreciate the inputs of yestertime San Marcos, Carlsbad, Coronado. Excellent. The response of our CEO was, for the first time, 14 meetings. I was overwhelmed by the substance of those input. That's for the minutes, sir. On the policy advisory committee actions, meetings, events, and all this, these are excellent processes, patterned from our constitution. Well done. Better best. We demand. Again, we are stakeholders, public, especially in our community, looks like forgotten by the city of San Diego elected officials. We're saying this in our humble cognitive ability. Something is wrong in the governance of the city of San Diego, led by 11 elected officials. These are all within the item for discussion.
Thank you.
Thank
Your
you.
time has expired. Next is Truth, followed by Paul the Bold online.
I just realized minutes are the remnants of a dead meeting. Item 3.1, the October 24th minutes, where the little devils, Manuela and Matthew, were in attendance, smiling, laughing, and conniving on both sides of the room. So again, policy changes are needed on board conduct. You got grown babies on board who are so dumb, they don't realize I'm going to keep calling in and creating more minutes while digging deep into their corruption. And I'm filming everything. Idiots. October 30th minutes, a certain council member joked with me that I missed this meeting. That's not true. What matters is this meeting started 16 minutes late. Board members who refuse to attend these meetings need to be required to contact their alternates. That meeting's 3-hour long closed session means Minto probably talked the whole time. The October 31st minutes, only Minto wore a ridiculous costume and he actually impersonated an officer and should have been immediately arrested. Others simply attended in their usual clown outfits, because I thought about wearing an evil clown mask so I could look like a scary politician, but I decided to save money, something evil clown politicians never do. Item 3.3, the September 15th Losan meeting, good to know the state's going to blow more billions on unneeded dangerous electric trains. The derailments and crashes are really going to bring some huge lithium fire shows and toxic cancer-causing fumes, and the grid's going to black out. They can barely handle trolleys. On the October 20th meeting between SCAG and SANDAG, as much corruption as SCAG has, some that rival SANDAG's own, I don't see the reason to waste tax dollars working with them or trying to learn anything from them. There's also a lack of transparency in where Lisa and Carolina traveled to for this meeting. In fact, why was Carolina chosen to go? She's on MTS, but so are others. And considering how corrupt and wasteful MTS is, I'd rather have somebody who is not on MTS be in attendance at this type of meeting. So I'd have to estimate the cost for these 3 events with no calculation there to be $500 plus. So I would say I would prefer that money to be back in my pocket where I know I could actually do good with it. Thank you.
Next is Paul the Bold online, followed by the original draw. Please identify what consent item you're speaking to.
Okay, PAC actions. I'm glad you want to approve the executive committee's approval of draft agendas. I mean, 2 approvals never hurt, I guess. It's probably a waste of time, though. Glad that the Losan board fixed up the Losan corridor and financing at their 2 meetings, but I'm wondering what Deputy Mayor Lindis contributed to the meeting. And again, I'm wondering what Chair Hebner and Councilmember Chavez contributed to the joint Metro Transit Organization meeting. Approval of the meeting minutes. Glad that October 24 minutes details the action taken, but it still is a lot of names without saying what they talked about or what ideas they contributed. And there should be mention of what was discussed in the funding overview. The October 30th special meeting has a good report on what happened in the meeting. As for the 31st, here comes the list of names like Oscars and who did what. I wish it said how long the discussion of Carlsbad extension went on, and I wish for a happy Halloween. And I'm guessing that you didn't reveal details of the internal controls because so many are MIA. And speak of MIAs, hope no one's MIA for Veterans Day. Have a good one. More stuff the public has to look up and listen to, and imagine what prompted the item's yes vote. Very disappointing. Is SANDAG so understaffed that it cannot provide proper minutes? Probably they seem to concentrate on staff who can actually participate in the corruption.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is the original draw. Please identify what consent item you're speaking to.
The devil is always in the details, Mario. You're so right. And anything you guys have to do with this public advisory committee or policy advisory committee, all of this stuff is a bunch of nonsense. It's gatekeepers to information or things being able to be mitigated, because the things that you guys should be looking into, you don't. And, you know, Satan masquerades as an angel of light, just like all of you guys, and he's the father of lies. This is Satan's playground. So everything is going to be inverted. And you can see it if you clearly pay attention to everything that goes on within the government. It's intentionally corrupt, it's intentionally inept, and it's intentionally protected in that way so that the people never really have any mitigation that can come forward. Because when you guys are talking about public policy and making sure that you are engaging in your funding responsibilities, I mean, obviously they're not doing their job because of all the fraud, waste, and abuse that continues to take place within this entity. And when you guys sit there and you're funding to literally put people in danger by not allowing for any kind of evacuation route, you're more concerned about the planet than in saving people and making sure that they can, evacuate in a fast manner and that they even know how to do it. We've already seen things happen, yet you guys continue to do your climate action plan that literally puts people's lives in danger. I mean, whether it's a bike lane that's unprotected and you're putting them on two-way roads where, head-on collisions happen all the time. You guys sit here and you virtue signal as you're doing all of these things that are, going to better society or the world around us, help our transportation, help us get around quicker, when that's all a lie. And these committees should be in there telling you, we need to mitigate this immediately and not use funding for that type of stuff until we can ensure that there's not going to be a problem. Instead, you guys want to create the problem to have a reaction and then offer the solution. That's the way it works. And it is so negligent, but that's the name of your guys' game.
Next is Blair Beekman, followed by Consuelo.
Hi, thank you, Blair Beekman. It's consent calendar time. So thank you. Thank you for, as always, the executive report from Mario Oso. It's helpful to me. Really interesting that he'll be attending a meeting in San Francisco in the next week. I hope this meeting can be placed on YouTube soon so I can get the reference to that meeting. It sounds like a really interesting meeting. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area at this time, and interestingly, I'm in many of the places that Mario visits. When he visits places like Mexico City, I'm there. When he's in, where else? There's a few other places he's visited. So nice how that's working out, the synchronicity to that. I wanted to comment also on the October, you've had several meetings in the past few weeks now, 3 weeks in a row. So thank you. All the YouTube meetings are lined up and available now. Thank you. For the October 31st meeting, you talked about Otay Mesa border toll issues, how to work that. And I just can't say enough, with the other toll issues, I guess of 125, to work towards a more accountable practices with the technology and invite public comment and public dialogue to get input and advice. I think it's really hopeful to the future of the process, and how to build cross-border relations. I think can better address the Tijuana River Valley water issues, and just better quality of life issues by addressing tech accountability. Addressing open democracy, democratic practices, I think can be a great way to create good connections for the border. So just to mention it again, what you can be doing, and that we can work with federal agencies to they not be so strict on their tech practices. Thanks.
Our last public comment is Consuelo. Go ahead, Consuelo, you're self-muted.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can
go
you hear
ahead.
me? Okay, great. Sorry. Okay, so consent. Gosh, it is always disturbing to hear about these local reps who continue to go far in order to take care and get input on addressing our local issues. But like everything else, and what they do doesn't make sense. Well, it does make sense to the agenda and not for the people. Yeah, instead of getting input from the people who are actually going to be affected, they go out, and that's so lame. Yeah, but I just am still here listening in and paying attention to see how, in fact, my neighbors and myself will be affected by what you guys do here. And with that, you know what? I'm going to say this. If we aren't being taught how to grow our own food, how to take care of ourselves and our families, and how to live without the need for huge governments and their agencies, banks, or corporations, as our ancestors once did, then we aren't being educated. We are being indoctrinated to be dependent and subservient to the system. And so are you. Continue on. Happy little slaves. Done.
That concludes our public comment on this item, Chair.
Very good. Any board member comments on consent? I see nobody on the board. May I have a motion to approve consent? Moved by Minto, second by Musgrove. Please use your devices to vote.
The motion passes with those members present.
Okay, very good. We're on to closed session next, so we'll go first to public comments on the closed session item.
If you're online, please raise your hand now. In person, we have Truth followed by Caesar. This is for closed session.
All right, Lauren left SANDAG after 10 years of service, only to come back to 100% toxic corruption. We're only here in this new era because she spoke up, forcing SANDAG's known corruption into public view. All one had to do was watch the July 27th, 2021 meeting to see the ridiculous nonsense going on where all the corruptors cared about were their stupid PLAs and clot shots. You guys are lucky I didn't have time to clip that meeting. I would have loved to play some of those highlights or lowlights. Former SANDAG Accounting and Finance Director Lauren Worm was fired as retaliation for exposing major errors in the 125 toll system ran by Eton and overseen by HNTB. Lauren will be awarded $2.5 million plus an unknown amount of attorney's fees. Attorney Joshua Gruenberg said Lauren was retaliated against for doing her job with honesty and integrity. This ruling restores her reputation and reaffirms that transparency isn't just good practice, it's the law. To earn back some honesty and integrity, SANDAG should issue a public apology for this disgrace and for causing Lauren a hard time after she did the right thing with more guts than most of you may ever have, excluding people like Rebecca, Bill, Matt Hall, and Melanie Burkholder. Most disappointing were the silent Republicans and independents in the room who had nothing to lose and everything to gain. Andre fudged the numbers and ran. Hassan likely told him to do it, just like he intimidated people into deleting records and fudging contracts in favor of Democratic Union friends. But corruption goes back to Gallegos, Catherine Todd, and others. They knew that Eton was a junk company from day one. The Trump administration needs to pick up where Biden's FBI intentionally dropped the ball on the DOJ's case against SANDAG. We all deserve to revel in several criminal charges, not just Lauren Worm's name being cleared and being awarded our tax dollars. I demand SANDAG ensure personal financial accountability and that there are federal charges for waste, fraud, and abuse under the direction of Sani Krata, Andre Dozjian, and all the other corrupt and incompetent bubbling grifters. Orange jumpsuits is what real justice would look like. And a time estimate on the closed session would be greatly appreciated. You wonderful human beings, I remember that you're all just like me, regular people who should be treated with respect. Thank you.
Next is Caesar, followed by the original draw online.
Cesar and Rita, we have a heavy stake on here as regards justice, a system that is fair to everyone, rich or poor. With all our careful deliberation and decision-making as a result of our threshold intelligences, the 5 human dimensions, Sir Mario, we have a complaint. A justice warfare from a person against a big association of thinkers. May we ask who that city thinker directly caused this problem? And I hope Councilor Luqadda, Councilor Lee of my core city, that they ought to give justice under the leadership, of course, the mayor, whom we have not seen here many, many times, once only. Listen, justice is the second pillar of our Constitution. Who amongst the city elected officials committed this against that person? I am reminded of what is happening, Tijuana River crisis. Who is accountable here? Imperial Beach leadership and District 8 City of San Diego leadership. Answer us, Mr. Luqadda, Mr. Lee, Chair Lanius.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is the original draw, followed by Paul the Bold online. Reminder, this is about closed session.
More fraud, waste, and abuse by having this closed session in the middle of the meeting. You guys disenfranchise people all the time by making them wait until you decide that you're finished to come back to the meeting. Then most people, have things that they got to do, don't have time to sit and wait, watching and seeing if you're going to be back. And it's just really disturbing, especially the way this whole case has been handled. The only reason why this was exposed is because it got put out by the media, which forced SANDAG's hand to do something. But instead of really mitigating the issue, you allowed the culprits to leave the company and with pay, instead of making sure that the people were held accountable for the fraud, waste, and abuse they were intentionally engaged in. It was intentional. It's corruption, racketeering, and different things like that. And yet you guys fire someone who is exposing that. And now we're set to, you guys better not be digging your heels in even further, trying to, further retaliate against Lauren and not provide her with what she is due to get. It's unfortunate that the people have to pay for the fraud, waste, and abuse the government engages in. But this is someone that you should actually be making sure you're making a settlement with that is going to be, not cutting her short from what she deserves, because you guys are sitting here and you're changing things within this entity, which of course that's good, but you're only doing it because it was exposed. Like the way that was talked about, like, oh, we're here now because it's out in the media. It should have been done because it was internally known. Yet you guys internally continue to hide it. So it's going to be very telling to see how you deal with this and what comes from it. But if you continue to deal your heels in, it will show that nothing has changed and there's continued fraud, waste, and abuse, and it doesn't matter who you put in place, it's still there.
Next is Paul the Bold, followed by Consuelo. Go ahead, Paul. You're self-muted.
Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. Let's see, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, another closed session on a topic unrelated to the public discussion items. There is no reason that this unrelated topic could not have been delayed to the end of the meeting, but instead members of the public have to sit and squirm in their seats outside for an indeterminate time. At least if you set a time to resume the meeting, the public could go enjoy the outside or do a bit of shopping and support local businesses instead of just sitting in their seats. As for the Warren case, the issue of getting fired for complaining is real enough that it should have been resolved years ago, ages ago. But I'm sure someone likes to get paid for all these extra conferences you're having. So what would have been the alternative to airing these complaints? More wrong tolls? More complaints and lawsuits? Do you support this? And if all you're doing is briefing the board, this could be done in a memo. It just shows how much SANDAG respects fact and differences of opinion that this case is dragging on and on. So, get it over with. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, our last public comment is Consuelo.
Okay, yeah, amen to all the previous concerned citizens. Yeah, I'd like to highlight the corruption and hypocrisy on this consent calendar. And as previous people mentioned, more fraud, waste, and abuse, justice, equality, and freedom, and so much more are things of the past. Here's the corrupt part. As Paul mentioned, you didn't reveal the details of the internal controls because, yeah, so many are missing in action. But yeah, again, reminder to all, the government is just a business with no incentive to deliver agreed upon services because their customers pay them under the threat of incarceration. And yeah, what else did I want to mention? Oh, that's funny how it's okay to be a little disrespectful here and there because yeah, sometimes it's good to call people idiots when they're acting like idiots. So all good. No need to save face on that. Be real, be authentic. That's the way. It's so rare. Happy Friday.
That concludes our public comment on this item, Chair.
Thank you. We'll now move into closed session. So I'll ask everyone who does not need to be here for this item to please exit the room.
You ready? You're not allowed shutting this down. Otherwise, I gotta get up and leave. I'm gonna let Robin know.
You talking about the Bayshore Bikeway with CTC?
No.
Oh, is that
No.
the one? We had a 30 with CTC.
Oh, yeah.
But
No, I
Dave's
just,
gonna cover for you if it goes long.
yeah.
If I need a
I need to leave.
writing device, can I borrow your pencil?
Yeah, of course.
Oh yeah, I always forget to bring. pen. We up right now? We up right now?
We're the only thing left.
Okay.
Have to get done, and so I couldn't push it. All right, I'm gonna be pushed technically. Yeah.
Oh, you're ready. Okay, I let her know that I need to get up and leave at 1. It's okay.
Okay.
Okay, we're back in open session. I'll now turn it over to Alfred for any reportable actions.
Thank you, Chair Huebner. The board met in closed session to discuss item 4 on the agenda, one item of existing litigation. That item was discussed and there is no reportable action.
Thank you so much, Alfred. We'll now move to project delivery strategy with emphasis on delivery. Staff will present both items, point 1 and point 2, and then we'll move on to public comments and then member discussion. Mario first.
Yes, and I'm gonna go really fast here. In one of our last meetings, we began this conversation of more than anything, a delivery strategy and our mindset of instead of pausing and waiting to fully fund projects to their full capacity and looking if we can move projects in a phased approach. That by no means that we're prioritizing one project over another. It means that we want to be flexible and nimble in order to fund whatever funding colors of money come in front of us. We move forward to try to those that qualify, right? That makes the good fit. And the team is going to be discussing this delivery strategy like a snapshot for the next 5 years. But I do want to again highlight that this is more like moving forward and getting things to construction and getting services into the public's hands than more than anything saying this project is more important than this other one. This is finding independent utility projects that match or can be married with the color of money and the opportunity and taking advantage of that opportunity. So I'm going to hand it to the team so they begin their presentations. Again, this is somewhat of a thick conversation, but going with the idea that this is not eliminating anything, it's more of a strategy of delivery.
All right, thank you, Mario. Good afternoon. I'm Antoinette Meyer, your Senior Director of Regional Planning. I'm joined today by Susan Huntington. She oversees financial planning, programming, and budgets. And then Clint Peace, who is our Senior Director of the Capital Program. So this is really a continuation of the conversation that you started at your last board meeting, where you were presented with the revenues we anticipate coming into the region over the next 5 years through formula funds that we get directly from the federal and state government, and then grants that we reasonably expect to receive. And I think a key message from that presentation was there's a lot of need in the region and not enough revenues to do everything all at once. So we were really seeking your input on how we should focus our limited resources and deliver projects. We've put that input into this delivery strategy that we're presenting to you for discussion today. But before I hand it over to Clint and Susan to go into those details, I just want to set the stage really quickly and describe kind of the approach to developing this strategy. So first, we started with the regional plan. And why? Because projects have to be in the regional plan to be eligible for state and federal funding. And we've been working super closely with you for the last 3.5 years on the 2025 regional plan. You provided a lot of input on the projects that we prioritized in that plan. And I think you'll see that reflected in the delivery strategy. The delivery strategy is really consistent with those near-term projects that we want to either deliver or have substantially underway by 2035. And you'll see things that we've heard you talk a lot about in the strategy, like Youth Opportunity Pass program, or really delivering on those early action Transnet projects, State Route 67 safety improvements, the I-5 HOV extension, 1578 connector project, 52, among others. Another focus of the strategy was on filling funding gaps so that we can get projects into the next stage. Some of the projects in the list are in early planning, and we really want to get them through that planning and environmental process so we start to build that shelf. We talked a lot about building a shelf at your board retreat. That's getting projects shovel ready so that they're ready to compete for some of those major federal and state grant programs. Other projects in the list, they're already shovel ready. So this really just gets them into construction or one step closer. And then you'll see that, like the regional plan, this is a multimodal strategy. We took that complete corridor approach. So where we're implementing managed lanes projects, there's a complementary rapid project and bike projects in there. This helps us meet our state and federal requirements. It provides more choices to the public for traveling, and it helps with VMT mitigation. And last, you'll see an emphasis on near-term improvements, like Mario said, that we can implement sooner and provide some relief. So phasing of projects. And this was something we heard a lot about when we were developing or doing the outreach for the 2025 regional plan, was that people don't want to wait 25 years for mega projects. They want relief now. And so we broke projects up, phased them, maybe brought some things forward that were more cost effective so that we can start to provide those solutions. So I want to explain really quickly what you have in your agenda packet today before I hand it over to my colleagues here, because I know it's a lot of information. So the attachment has sort of two project lists. The first is the active capital projects in the FY26 budget. It also includes a handful of planning projects and pilot projects. Nothing on this list stops. This work continues. The second list is our proposed project delivery strategy. And these are the projects where we need funding to either complete a current phase of work or get it into the next stage. And we're proposing, or where we're proposing to phase the project and deliver some solutions in the near term. So what
we're presenting today doesn't stop existing work. We're simply confirming where you want us to focus our limited resources over the next 5 years to get some projects done, to bring the regional plan to life. It becomes really our roadmap. And then this is going to set the stage for the second part of this agenda item, which is about the State Transportation Improvement Program, or the STIP. And this is really your first opportunity to act on the delivery strategy through the projects that we end up submitting to the STIP. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Susan. I forgot my slide.
All right. Good afternoon. So most of you are familiar with the regional planning and programming process. This slide you may have seen before. It visually shows how we go from the big picture regional plan to funding and implementing specific capital projects and services. So the regional plan, like Antoinette said, is a long-range blueprint for how the region will grow and how the transportation system will develop. It's updated every 4 years and it goes out to 2050. From the regional plan, our board identifies which projects to prioritize, and we pursue funding to advance those projects. So once funding is identified, the project moves into the SANDAG annual program budget. From there, as projects progress through early planning and environmental phases, the projects get programmed in the RTIP, which is the 5-year investment plan that gets updated every 2 years and is amended as needed to account for new projects, changes to projects, and new funding sources. Both the regional plan and the RTIP are required to demonstrate conformity and fiscal constraint. And then the new acronym that we're throwing at you today is the STIP. The California Transportation Commission develops the STIP, the State Transportation Improvement Program, every 2 years. It's a 5-year plan for future allocation of certain state transportation funds for state highway, intercity rail, regional highway, and transit improvements. So in the fall of every odd year, we bring to the board a proposed program of projects for inclusion in the STIP. These are state formula funds allocated to the region based on population and lane miles of state highways within the region. So I'll go into more of the details on the 2026 proposed STIP in the second part of this item. I just wanted to flag for you here that state is STIP formula funding. It's a 5-year plan and it's updated every 2 years. So you'll remember from our presentation at the end of October, SANDAG receives funding from 2 primary sources, formula-based funding and competitive funding. Formula funding is allocated to us based on a set of criteria, most commonly population size or the number of road miles or one of another measurable factors. We also receive competitive funding, which is awarded based on the strength of individual project proposals, which demonstrate that our projects offer strong benefits, align with regional, state, and federal priorities, and score well against other applicants. So what you're looking at on this slide is the current approved multi-year capital budget broken down by fund source. The dark blue at the bottom is our formula funds. That includes both state and federal. Then the local funds. These funds are contributed to our capital projects from MTS, NCTD, and also local jurisdictions where we're doing work in partnership. The green bar is the Transnet Major Corridor or Transnet Bike Program funds. And then finally at the top, that lighter green bar, that's the funding in our capital budget that we've received through competitive process. The takeaway here is that we heavily rely on those competitive funds. Of the $2.4 billion in our approved multi-year capital budget, nearly $1 billion is from successful grant pursuits. So this slide shows our current approved capital budget represented by the dark blue bars, along with our additional unprogrammed capacity. So what do we mean by unprogrammed capacity? It's the revenue we receive but haven't yet assigned to projects. For context, SANDAG on average receives $110 million in formula funding every year. So that comes from the federal sources, congestion mitigation and air quality, as well as the regional surface transportation, RSTP funds, as well as the state STIP, which I just talked about, and also the state has local partnership programming formula funds. We track the balance of our formula funds through the RTIP. So the board receives a financial summary with each formal RTIP amendment, which shows what the revenue is, what's been programmed, and the revenue balance. The pink bars at the top show our estimated revenue minus the amount already programmed on projects. So what you'll notice is in the near term, we budget up to our available capacity, but in the outer years, we intentionally leave some capacity unprogrammed. And there's a strategy behind this approach. So revenue estimates in the outer years are likely to change. So you're aware we conduct an annual short-term revenue analysis for the Transnet program, and that's based on current economic conditions. And as Naomi shared at the October 24th meeting, those conditions have a high degree of uncertainty. The current Federal Service Transportation Act expires in September of 2026. Discussions are already underway about reauthorization, which will determine new policies, priorities, and funding levels. So those pink bars after fiscal year 27, those are estimates of what those funding levels will be. And then also, we don't want to program out all the way out in this time period because actual project expenditures can shift from year to year. So as project schedules evolve and when progress slows or maybe is advanced, expenditures may move or waterfall into future years. Because of these factors, our revenues and timing will continue to change. Keeping capacity unprogrammed in the out years allows us to remain flexible, both to respond to emerging conditions and to align with future board direction. We also avoid tying up formula dollars too early on projects that might later compete well for grants. So most competitive funding programs don't allow supplanting, meaning we can't simply replace formula funds with grant funds later. If we program our formula funds too soon, we reduce our competitiveness. Another important point here is that sometimes there's limited flexibility to reprioritize programmed funds, the dark blue bars between projects, depending on the fund source. So this is where we talked about last time funding strings. If the funds are tied to a specific grant or a specific purpose, they can't be moved. That's why maintaining some unprogrammed formula money is also very valuable. It gives us a cushion to address cost increases or new project needs as they arise. Finally, we want to reserve our Transnet funds, our key source of local dollars, to use as local match in competitive grant applications. Leveraging local money helps us bring additional outside funding into the region. And as you saw on the previous slide, competitive funding has been critical to advancing our capital program. And while we've had historic success in recent years, we anticipate fewer competitive opportunities over the next 5 years, which makes this strategic approach even more important. This slide highlights the major funding opportunities we do anticipate having over the next year. So first step, circling back to Antoinette's kickoff, it all starts with the regional plan. The board will be asked to consider and approve the 2025 regional plan by the end of the year. In spring 2026, the California Transportation Commission will be taking up action on their 26 STIP investments. SANDAG is proposing projects to be included to continue project implementation. Also in the spring, several key federal grant programs are expected to open or be announced, including the Federal State Partnership, that's for Intercity Rail, and the BUILD program. These programs are strong opportunities for SANDAG to advance regionally significant projects that enhance safety, improve performance, and can demonstrate regional impact. Moving into summer 2026, we'll be developing the FY27 annual budget. The timing allows us to align our grant strategy with available formula funds and project readiness and bring those budget amendments back to the board. In fall and early winter, we expect the next round of SB1 grants. These are the state programs, the state competitive programs that focus on maintaining and improving the transportation system. SANDAG has been particularly successful in the solutions for congested corridors and trade corridor enhancement programs. And then finally, in the fall, there's additional federal grant programs related to rail infrastructure, congestion relief, and railroad crossing. So overall, 2026 will be a critical year for positioning SANDAG projects to compete for both federal and state funding, ensuring we continue to leverage outside resources to deliver our capital program. So next, I'll turn it over to Clint. He'll discuss the strategy to leverage these different funding sources in order to advance delivery of projects and programs.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. I'm going to try to keep my talking points short as I can, but still provide some context and set the stage for this strategy. At the end of any questions, Caltrans is also here if there's any project-specific questions on those that they're delivering. So overall, as mentioned before, I really want to take away, this is a 5-year strategy on our 20-year plan, right? It's a 5-year slice. We want to continue to advance all projects that we're working on in that regional plan of the 20 years that were approved by this board, but we can't do everything at once. So go back. So last time, Susan provided an overview of the project phasing and the complexity of transportation funding. And as we talked about last week, there were 3 key considerations the strategy really revolved around, right? So it was policy, funding, and delivery. Right, it means ensuring our projects meet those strategic goals, are feasible to implement, and are financially viable. Your input on these 3 pillars last week really helped set the framework for the proposed strategy presented today. So after last week's discussion, we came up with 9 key considerations in no particular order here. But safety came out as number 1, right? Safety is number 1. We want to deliver our past commitments, maintain that sub-regional spread, deliver efficient transit, consider mobility needs, segment projects for earlier delivery, complete transit major corridors, be flexible while also keeping some stability, and we need to consider our maintenance and operations of what we construct. What I believe we'll present today is a proposed strategy that meets all of those. The core of the strategy is really about reducing risk and maximizing opportunities. To be clear, it's not a new strategy or novel approach, as Susan mentioned and Mario's talked about over the last year. It's about going back to the fundamentals. Much of the strategy is how SANDAG has been successful in the past, delivering complex projects like Mid-Coast, the I-15 managed lanes. Naomi also discussed last week, there's a lot of uncertainty in the economy. There's also a lot of uncertainty about the future federal transportation revenues. As Susan mentioned, we're waiting for the new federal transportation next year, hopefully. And today, what we have today is a reasonable funding expectations based on historical norms. But what about right now is normal, right? But that's okay, right? We have experience dealing with volatility, and this strategy helps to mitigate some of that uncertainty. All right, so how do we do that? The strategy proposes 4 key methods. First, segment projects into manageable pieces. Don't commit flexible funds too early. Maintain a sufficient contingency, and look for future innovative funding opportunities. And Susan and I kind of covered the difference between flexible and state funding, so we'll skip that right now. So we want to get to what you want to hear. This is the map showing all of our current projects. This is the 2026 budget. We got currently 16 projects in construction, 27 in design, 14 in environmental. We have some others down in here like an EMP and some operationals, but this is basically our existing budget. And as you mentioned, we're continuing to work on all these projects. What you'll see in the next slide is some of the projects that we'll highlight that we hope to advance into the next phase, a lot of it into construction. And hopefully you'll see in the slide, we were trying to maintain that diversity. Again, this is a 5-year picture. So the strategy is not a static plan. The reason we're proposing this strategy is because there is uncertainty, and with uncertainty, there's risk. I will not come to here and tell you that I have 100% confidence that these projects will all be delivered at the exact amounts shown here and the exact timeframes. In fact, it won't. Some things will change, but this provides a framework for us to focus our funding and our resources, and a strategy on how we get there. We could provide a virtually risk-free plan, but zero risk also reduces those opportunities. And adding too many projects makes delivery really unfeasible and isn't realistic. So to set the framework, we have a current capital budget of about $700 million. Our proposed strategy looks to add anywhere about 1.4 to 2.2 billion over the next 5 years. We currently have approximately 630 million in that available flexible funding Susan showed on the chart over that time frame. That leaves a gap of about 800 million to 1.6 billion over that 5-year period. That's what we're looking to close through the strategy and mainly through the innovative financing and competitive grants. To put that into context, over the previous 5 years, SANDAG's gotten 1.2 billion, kind of right in the middle of that range. So is it reasonable? I think so. Is it certain? No. Project schedules and estimates will change as they advance the delivery process, but the biggest uncertainty right now is the funding availability in picture. We anticipate the new federal transportation authorization next year, and between the federal authorization and a clearer picture on where the state budget looks like, we'll have a much better idea on what side of the scale that funding is going to look like. As we move through the 5-year period, those two sides, our estimated need and the funding opportunities, will start come clear and come together, and we'll adjust along the way. Okay. So what you see now in the red and in the sheets in front of you are the proposed projects we look to advance. As you can see, we're really heavily trying to get those projects into construction. So another maybe some questions on what projects, before we jump into the list of projects, over to questions. There's been some comments or questions in terms of, well, early on, we talked about moving funds off projects to fund other projects. What we've really tried to do our best is maintain those existing fundings, maintain the existing projects, and continue to work on all those projects. But there are 3 key projects that we are proposing this strategy to make some adjustments. There is one project we're proposing, and you'll also see it in the STIP, to remove funding on. It's 15 million that is currently out in the future years on the I-15 DAR transit priorities is sitting in design. That project is just now kicking off. The environmental Caltrans is leading that project. And we talk about it pretty too early to put on funds. Our proposal is to actually take the future STIP funds. We've been working with CTC and actually advance those a year earlier and put those onto the I-5 HOV lanes that are a lot closer ready to construction. And it also makes that project more competitive in the grant opportunities. Caltrans and SANDAG have submitted that as a joint application for the Congested Corridors Program. So that's the one part we're proposing to remove the funds now. That doesn't mean that 15 DAR is stopping. Caltrans is still working the next couple of years to do that environmental document. And when that gets closer ready, we'll relook to the timing and the dollars needed to refund that design phase.
What number is that project? Sorry.
Someone say 21?
Yeah.
21. The other 2 projects we're proposing to make adjustments to, we are not proposing to remove all the funding of the airport transit connector and the purple line. We're proposing to take some of the funding on that larger project in advance and move them earlier to do studies to do some early improvements. We're still maintaining funding, enough funding to keep advancing those feasibility and early studies on both of those long-term projects. So with that, well, I hand it over to Susan, so we're going to jump into the 2026 STIP proposal.
I'll start us off while they're pulling up the PowerPoint for this. So basically, we're going from this overall big picture funding strategy to one of the actions that we're asking the board to take. This would be your first implementation action to implement this funding strategy. So today's item is presented as discussion. We'll be coming back in 2 weeks for an action so that we can submit the region's 2026 STIP to the state by their submittal date, which is December the 15th. So we've talked about it. What is the STIP? The STIP is a rolling plan. It's a dynamic rolling plan. It's formally developed by the California Transportation Commission every odd year. It's updated every 2 years. And with each update, the state looks back, adjusting the existing plan, and then adds 2 additional plans, 2 additional new years for future funding commitments. The STIP is a comprehensive program designed to fund projects through all 4 major phases of development, so environmental clearance, design, right-of-way, and construction. And while highways are a key component, the program is inherently multimodal. It funds everything from new road construction and rehabilitation to essential upgrades for public transit, rail, and bus infrastructure. The program relies on a mix of federal and state revenues. On the federal side, the STIP primarily draws from FHWA and FTA funds, and then those federal dollars are matched with state funding, which is primarily derived from the state highway account. And again, like I mentioned earlier, the STIP is distributed on two main factors. It's a formula program based on the region's total population and lane miles of state highways that are within the region. Actually, the STIP is divided into two separate programs. The Regional Improvement Program, this is 75% portion of the formula. These are projects that are nominated and prioritized by regional agencies, organizations like SANDAG and other metropolitan planning bodies. And then 25% of the program is the Interregional Improvement Program. This is 25%. These projects are nominated by Caltrans and focus on infrastructure that connects major economic and population centers. The CTC uses the CAPTI principles to evaluate every project. So we propose projects and then the CTC will be looking and evaluating against the CAPTI principles. So key facts for the 2026 STIP. This covers fiscal years 2027 through 2031, representing about $2.7 billion in total investment statewide, slightly less than the $2.9 billion that was available in the 2024 cycle. Specifically for our region, there is no new programming capacity in the 2026 STIP. This is because in the 2024 STIP, we fully utilized all of our targeted regional shares. Therefore, the priority of this proposal was singular, maintaining and continuing existing commitments and keeping all the funding whole. These refinements ensure funding continuity, a core of the CTC priorities, and position SANDAG for on-time delivery. So like Clint just mentioned, we have just two key adjustments. First, $80.9 million will be proposed to be reprogrammed for the I-5 HOV HOT conversion lanes, and that will shift funding from fiscal year 27 to fiscal year 28. This is a crucial administrative step to match the funding schedule with the project's actual delivery needs. Second, we are proposing to move programming between the I-15 transit priority lanes and Claremont Mesa Dar to accelerate the I-5 North Coast corridor managed lanes. Environmental phase work on the I-15 transit priority lanes will continue. And then there's $3.7 million of new programming for planning, programming, and monitoring. Those are the last 2 years where we had where they added additional funds for us. So this slide here shows you the change from the 2024 STIP to what we're proposing in the 2026 STIP.
So these changes are based mostly on pragmatism. What we can
Absolutely.
actually fund to get going now.
Absolutely.
Shovel ready.
So, so on the I-5 HOV HOT conversion lanes, we're pushing that out to match the project schedule. So if we left it in 2027, there would be some risk that the project wouldn't be ready for that. And so we would lose those funds. So we've pushed it out to 2028 with the idea that if the project is ready to go to construction earlier, we can submit an amendment to the STIP to the CTC. They can look and see if the funds are available. And if so, we can move that back. But if we keep it there, then we risk losing it to the region.
On the 2-year cycle?
Yes.
Okay, so if in 2028, if it's not ready, can those funds be either reappropriated or reallocated to a different project? Or are they locked in?
We would lose them to the region right now if we left them in 27. So we'll be coming back in the fall of fiscal year 28 with the same item again. We would expect that those would already be in construction. If it's not in construction, then we would lose that to the region. But this gives us an extra time in order to get there.
Thank you.
So the basis for this funding recommendation really is just to continue the projects that were in the 2024 STIP. And then we have alignment with the STIP guidelines, which ensure and state priorities, and that ensures eligibility and consistency with CAPTI. We're advancing board-approved capital and planning program. Everything proposed is already a part of the board's approved program. We're investing in Transnet priority corridors, and we have jointly developed this proposal as required by the CTC with our partners Caltrans District 11. The projects in the program are geographically diverse. This shows on a map where each of these projects are. And then in terms of timeline and next steps, so we're here today for a discussion item. We'll return to the board with the STIP proposal at its meeting on November 21st, hopefully looking for an action there. And then following board approval, staff will submit the 2026 STIP package to CTC no later than December the 15th. Any significant changes to the recommendation that we put forward to CTC will be presented back to the SANDAG board as part of the fiscal year 2027 final budget presentation. And that wraps up my item. Back to you.
I do have a question.
Thank you. Hold on,
Mayor.
hold on. Thank you very much, team. Before we go to public comments, and then we'll go to our member comments, it is now 1:10, and we're supposed to be stopping at 1:30, so I'll need a motion to extend the meeting to 2 o'clock. Hopefully we won't go that long. We may have a motion to extend the meeting till 2 o'clock.
So moved.
Okay, who are those people? Sanchez and Musgrove. Okay, thank you very much. Please vote to extend the meeting to 1:30. And Michael, please, till 2, I'm sorry. Yeah. And then public commenters, put your request to speak in right now, and then please cut off all other requests for public comment. Encinitas, please vote. Okay. Joel. Okay. so it's
Contrarian.
We are going to go to 2, despite what the county would like to do. All right. Michael, please call how many public commenters do we have?
We have 2 in person and we have 6 online.
Okay, thank you very much. And that, again, we're cutting those off. Thank you.
First is Truth, followed by Caesar.
Found a mistake. There's 2 number 55s on the project map. I appreciate the transparency, but unfortunately I hate most of the projects. One of the worst is transit priority lanes on the 15, which already has horrible traffic thanks to SANDAG's bad anti-car ideas. Are those who take transit any more a priority than veterans, the elderly, or those with disabilities? Why are the consequences of these types of projects never addressed? What is downtown La Mesa trolley prioritization? Does that have to do with moving the trolley station? Because that's what I heard. Do I have to ask a council member? There you go. Managed toll lanes and high occupancy toll lanes are a modern form of redlining and segregation where only the rich will be able to enjoy the right to travel unimpeded. Another only in California nightmare policy. How many more decades are the 52 and 67 going to be in California's environmental blockades? Has SANDAG ever sent a letter to the various state crazies requesting an expedited process for safety improvements? Why is it easier to destroy the roads with useless, dangerous bike lanes than to make the road safe for their intended car use? How many millions has the Del Mar Bluffs project overspent? Because the last financial update said over $500,000 was wasted on one inflated contract. An airport transit connection should be funded by the beneficiaries, the airport and its customers and employees. Just like the $20 million youth trafficking pass should be funded by their parents. Great photo on slide 16, proving that unaccompanied minors are riding transit. Were children part of the 482 assaults on or near trolleys this year? SANDAG needs to stop adding bus routes that transit operators can't afford. I request a operation strategy every time a new bus route is thrown onto MTS or NCTD. It'd make more sense to invest in transit security and other needs like working elevators and escalators for the Green Line, and maybe bathrooms. How many of these projects are in East County? How about in the backcountry? Because out of 73 projects, maybe 5 max serve anywhere near the majority lands of San Diego County. That would be a representation percentage of 0.06%. So I guess it's a lot like Newscom's Prop 50 election rigging. Thank you.
Next is Caesar, followed by Zach Sturgeon online.
Thank you, Sandag, Cesar, and Purita. Value analysis, both for 5.1 and 5.2 to be specific. corruption equals monopoly plus discretionary minus accountability. Council Member Lakaba City, Core City, Councilor Lee, pardon me, but I have to mention your names. This is just a reminder because you are our core city. We have in the past challenges like this. Number 3, timeliness, efficiency, simplicity. Please, copying solutions and improving it is better best. Lesson learned. Try to watch the East-West Railroad construction by a movie, Hells on Wheels. We will learn lessons from there. Which one is better best? Transportation mobility, Western Board or Eastern Board, as mentioned by our CEO, which one is best? He mentioned about underground. So we mentioned this: water, land, transportation mobility. Regional transportation mobility is likened to the physical body with its arterial and vein distribution of food, blood, we call nutrition of the body. Try to imagine the entanglement of all this. Lesson learned from Dallas transportation program, where they put a spaghetti-like highways on a geographic site in Dallas City. It's a lesson learned.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Zach Sturgeon online, followed by Paul the Bold.
Thank you.
Sandag.
I live in D5 and rely on transit along the I-15 corridor to make my way to North Park, downtown, and further south. And I'm calling specifically about the conversation about moving the money from improving or creating transit priority lanes for the 235 near Claremont, where the bus just very frequently slows down to a crawl. I took it last night and there were 40, 50 people on the bus who were delayed by 20 minutes waiting for single occupancy vehicles to clear out the road before they could get to the center line. I appreciate that a lot of this is the money's possibly being moved due to budgetary concerns. I'm concerned that that money's being moved to I-5, which is taking money from a transit priority program to something that won't benefit transit. And I just want to make sure that this stays in the conversation and that this program, or that, this program is very much wanted and needed. Thank you.
Next is Paul the Bold, followed by the original draw.
Okay. It's all about money. Money, money, money. Not much strategy. Slide 4 looks like the capital budget declines from about 700,000 to 200,000 over the next 5 years, and you have practically no capital funds for 2031. Better build up public trust if you want to attract more public funding. But looking at the list on slide 7, you are still putting the public next to last under policy. Glad you have safety first on the list on slide 8, which were true in practice. But things like the still dangerous bikeways and impaired or non-existent evac routes belie this placement. And Transnet major corridors should be right up there with past commitments. Considering mobility needs is what you should be doing right after prior commitments. And risk, slide 9, you want to avoid using grants, especially in the current financial and government debt crisis for long-term projects, unless you think the debt problem will go away soon. Hint, it won't. U.S. debt has actually gone up steadily since the 20s. Calvin Coolidge was the last president to decrease it. It's disgusting the proportion of projects in the western half of the county versus the eastern half. I mean, really, you're supposed to serve the entire county. And I see on slide 5 of the next set, you're expecting nearly $158 million from the state, which also has a huge debt.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is the original draw, followed by Consuelo.
Yes, I'd like to give a warm handoff to the organized crime propaganda update. You racketeers are funny. You guys only care about your money. I wish more people would listen when you guys talk, because if they just paid attention just a little bit, they would see what a fraud everything is, because you guys are like guaranteeing to get your money. And then you'd say, well, that's because we need to do projects. But when you're taking money from one project to another constantly, and you talk about completing projects like, we hope to be able to do this, we're planning on doing this, like, we're going to try, but you don't talk that way about, getting your funding, because you guys know that when you move it from project to project like that, you have more racketeering going on. And it is just hilarious because, like, you guys have nothing to, like, you don't improve transit. You realize that, right? You actually make it worse. And you sit there and virtue signal like you're going to better things. But I mean, anytime you touch stuff, it literally, like, it just, oh my gosh, it crumbles into sand, because it's like nothing, you guys aren't on a firm foundation. Everything you do is so wobbly and fraudulent that, I mean, but you'll always make an excuse as to why, you know what I mean? But you got to, keep up that status quo of, everything just not going the way it should, so then you can implement something else. I mean, I can't imagine being like a failure at everything and then virtue signaling like you're just, doing such great work, and then, but blame shifting and always going to someone else and blaming them for the reason why it didn't happen, but it has nothing to do, with what you guys are doing, which is mismanagement. Or is it? I mean, I think it's being managed pretty well on your guys' side, because I mean, people's pockets are being filled. People are, really thriving in the realm of the government officials and stuff like that, all while, people around us suffer. And, they're just going to have to be begging and pleading for some more help from the government. But that's the whole plan. The government takes everything, but then they're there to pick up the pieces when they do.
Next is Consuelo, followed by Blair Beekman.
Okay, Consuelo here. Public commenters, Huebner, please refer to the few concerned citizens paying attention as such. Thank you. And thank you so much for this thorough update and report of this project. Okay, first off, funds are always available for the agenda, so let's be straight and transparent with that fact. Reporting more information and data. That's the only actions ever taken before really sticking it to the taxpayers. All done to hide just how screwed we're all being. Okay, to my other little speech I had made. This crooked agency that's been preying on the dumbed down society for far too long. They've manipulated the public, taken us for suckers, and wasted millions of our hard-earned tax dollars, all while pretending to plan for the future. They lied to voters about their revenue projections, knowingly overstating the numbers just to push more taxes through. They've been caught mismanaging contracts, losing millions in toll revenue, and raking up outrageous spending on food, travel, and vague consulting deals. Their own audits prove it. Fraud, waste, and abuse year after year. And what do we get in return? Wacky street designs and useless road improvements, and ridiculous plans that make traffic worse instead of better. These are not visionary leaders. They're bureaucratic opportunists playing God with our communities, preying on the distracted, overworked public, and it's disgusting. Treating honest people like they're too stupid to notice is even worse. And but what SANDAG forgot was people are waking up, the truth is out, and this crooked agency will not last long. We're done being manipulated. We're done funding fraud. We're done being treated like fools. Enough with the line. Be transparent or step down. People see you. At least they see you now. They will.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Blair Beekman, followed by phone number ending in 5981.
Hi, Blair Beekman. I wanted to offer a beginning comment that being up in the Bay Area at this time, I attended the Santa Clara County, San Jose transit monthly meeting called BTA. That's their transit service. They've been having the same difficulties figuring out how to do the closed session meeting times the same as you. And they figured out at their meeting last night that they have their closed session meetings at the very beginning of the meeting. And then they schedule it for like an hour. And so the public can start arriving. The meeting started at 5:30 and the closed session agenda. Then the public was invited at 6:30 p.m. And that's when the official meeting started. Maybe you can do something like that in the future, because what DRA said earlier, it's very time consuming and weird that you have these closed sessions in the middle of a meeting. It really screws with the public being able to participate now. So, and it just makes for a better efficiency overall, just to start at the very beginning with closed session agendas. I would guess, but that's my 2 cents. For this item, thank you for your time. For this item, I'm not quite clear what is going on. I've been doing a lot of busy work here today at home, and so I'm just listening in. Hopefully, a really good public comment about Interstate 5 issues and what funding going for that is questionable. Good luck what what your following conversations will be, and it'll be nice to hear. And thank you for this item.
And our last public comment is phone number ending in 5981. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. I would like to comment in opposition to moving the I-15 transit priority for diverting the I-15 transit priority project money to freeway projects in North County. The I-15 transit priority funding would go to speeding up buses that would advance transit in our region, which is critical to SANDAG's goals for reducing emissions and increasing transit usage. By diverting certain funding for this, you are risking that this project will not get funded, and by moving it to freeway projects, you are going against your own goals of increasing transit usage and decreasing pollution by wasting money on polluting and inefficient and wasteful freeway projects. I think it's just very concerning that while you claim to support geographic equity, the funding says otherwise. On this amendment, on this new proposal, there is very little funding for Central and South San Diego County, while North and East San Diego County get a lot of funding. I really hope that SANDAG will prioritize transit funding for the people who need it the most. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment on this item, Chair.
Thank you. We're on to member comments. Councilmember Molina, you're up first.
Thank you very much, Chair Huebner. Thank you for this information. It is very complex, but the way that you have described it today and the reading material and the presentation has been very helpful. I am a strong proponent for the Youth Opportunity Pass. It doesn't have a number, it says NA, but funding that I believe will run out this coming summer, and I would love to see it secure funding for the next 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President Luqadda.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation on both items. I think you did a great job of interpreting the board's reaction at the last meeting and kind of synthesizing it. I was getting a little nervous given how much we were all over the place, but I think you did a great job going forward. On the STIP portion, I'll confess that I hate these kinds of items because it's one funding source, one bucket, and really doesn't show all the buckets and how projects fit into all the buckets. I say the same thing at the city of San Diego, so I'm not picking on you guys. But I do need to have a little more conversation about the item that Clint talked about and a couple of the public commenters talked about, which is the transit priority lanes and the Claremont direct access route. Again, we're only talking about STIP here, which is just one of many funding buckets. How does that project fit into, without getting too carried away, but how does it fit into the larger budgeting strategy?
Yeah, so then the larger project, it's still in our regional transportation plan. It's going to be in the plan of finance that will be coming up here soon to relook at. So that's, they say, it's still a priority project. We're still moving that forward. What we don't see right now is in this 5 years, in terms of delivery, right? We're trying to look at the strategy. We want to put the money where it makes sense. We're just kicking off environmental to stick $15 million of design funding there. You don't really know, most likely that'll come up. You don't even know what the preferred alternative is yet. And most likely kind of where that timing is, that probably would have to push out a year anyways. And so it was an opportunity to bring those dollars in early. I agree with you. It's hard when you don't see that full picture. With this STIP though, right, other than that change, it really is just carrying the 2024 STIP forward. So it's all the projects that were already previously approved. And part of that is, why is there no capacity? It sounds like, well, we're not getting any new money. It's really because the region was very successful, right? When other regions or things didn't fully utilize their capacity, SANDAG came in and actually brought in extra money and over-programmed those jobs. And so we were able to get a lot of the projects to construction and fund that we're working on now. But it does mean over the next cycle or two, right, we draw down against that overcapacity. And so we'll start seeing, we expect to start seeing more new STIP dollars coming in those outer years after 32, around that 31, 32 timeframe.
Okay, well, thank you for taking the time to go through that. You know, I was part of, one of many board members that was really focused on, let's get things done and take advantage of the money rather than sock it away and hope that someday we'll get all the funding and do the mega project approach. So thank you for clarifying that we have not lost that project. It just is not the right time for the STIP funding going forward. The other question I have, which is a little bit out of my area, is the SR 67. There's been a lot of talk the past couple of meetings about how do we shift from the mega project to the faster project. How does the 30 million, which I think is identified as just plans, specifications and estimates, fit into that strategy of doing smaller improvements faster?
Yeah, that's a great example. That one hits a lot of our areas, right, including the safety area. It's a big topic. So we've been working closely with Caltrans on what we could do, right? We've heard the board, the public, what we could do to advance that. So that 30 million is identified as an estimate, right? We have a range in there. What we think we could reasonably do for what we call like a phase one or stage one of that project for design. So that 30 million is the design piece. Again, right now, remember, they're still in the environmental document. They haven't identified the preferred alternative. So it is kind of just looking at, hey, what interim improvement maybe falls within all those alternatives that we can address some of those key bottleneck areas. You'll see on the map there that that project has the widest range of estimate because we don't know what that exact scope is yet. But conversation, we feel pretty comfortable in that 30 million at least is a good amount that reasonable to advance some sort of near-term interim solution. And then also on that is the plan to, okay, we want to get that to construction, right, in this 5-year period. And so we have a really wide range there. Right now, as a high level estimate, we're putting about $400 million. Again, without a clear defined scope. As we get closer, we hope we can find maybe an alternative that's in the lower range, which then frees up more money for others. But we that's what we target, is about 30 million for a design of a phase one approach and a really high level target of about 400 million.
Okay, I'm old enough just to still get freaked out by $30 million projects. But I understand. So I indicated before, and I continue to be supportive of doing smaller, faster, safer projects for Highway 67. So thank you for that explanation, and thank you for the good work in bringing these items forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Casares.
Thank you. I'm going to be short and sweet like Councilmember Molina. I'm really glad to see that the Youth Opportunity Pass for free transit program for the next 3 years is included in this. I think that it's really important and it helps especially students in East County be able to get around the county. Whether they're, living in La Mesa or Lemon Grove and need to make their way up to UCSD or SDSU, or hopefully eventually down to Chula Vista for their education. So I'm really happy to see that in here. And then not included in the STIP, but included in our projects. I'm very excited about the La Mesa Trolley Prioritization Project. For those of you who aren't aware, we're looking at specifically in our downtown village area. I'm sure most of you have visited us at Oktoberfest or something, but we're looking at whether we put the tracks higher, whether we underground them, or if we actually could make the street go underground. So that's what's going on, and I'm really excited about it. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Shin.
Thank you. Just mostly questions. So I was looking at our priorities that you were mentioning. There was about 9 of them. When it comes to the efficient transit and mobility needs, is that our discussions that we're having with like the NCTDs and the MTSs?
Yes.
Okay. And then with that, do we ask for like justifications of their needs? They provide like specifically why they need those projects? Or is this just like a state mandate that we're
We have ongoing conversations with them all of the time about their needs and why they have those needs.
Whenever I look at their statistics, the thing that scratches my head is it shows rider usage. I grew up as a bus rider, so I'm not here to trash on buses or anything, but what I don't see is capacity. So I'm not seeing that, okay, we have these buses and now we're at capacity and now we need more, or any of those justifications. So when I see statistics, it scratches my head, right? If a bus can hold 30 and there's only 2 people in it, just that kind of mindset. Do we need to do things that are to help facilitate these agencies or not? Does that make sense?
Yeah, but is there a particular project that you're referring to in the project list?
Just overall strategy, if we're talking about a 5-year plan out ahead, right? And 5, 10, and everything here that we're talking about is always stuff that's going to take place by the time I collect Social Security. I'm trying to think about the justification of why we're doing this. A few meetings ago, we were talking about providing metrics. And so when we're talking about providing metrics, like I think that's one that's always been concerning with a lot of our residents. They do ask these questions. They go, hey, I don't see anybody on the buses or on the trains. Why are we now building A, B, C, and D? And I'm not here to say that we need to be against it. I just want it as a part of our metrics so that we can explain appropriately and be transparent with our public. Do we get those metrics anywhere else?
We do get those metrics. We have them on our open data portal. We're about to release a new transit ridership dashboard that'll have pretty close to near current data on ridership for all of the routes, both NCTD and MTS. So that data and information will be at your fingertips coming soon.
Gotcha. And then last but not least, it was startling yesterday with the board of directors meeting for Tesla. And so do we have conversations with like automobile manufacturers? Their goal by 2035 is to create 20 million electric vehicles, and they want 1 million robo-taxis. And so if they hit that goal in a decade, are we thinking about the impacts there? Are we thinking like BYD, their vehicles now cost $7,800? Are we thinking about what's about to take place in regards to that, the scale?
Yes, we do talk with technology companies, with auto manufacturers. Mario mentioned a couple of companies that have approached us recently with autonomous transportation options to connect to the airport. We have a team that looks at transportation technology and future trends. We incorporate that into the regional plan as well. Is there something specifically in the list that is missing for you?
It's just the digesting of, if these are their goals and they're going to try to hit their marks, like what is that going to mean for us? And then if we're going to see just an impact of traffic increase at whatever, are we going to start anticipating these things? That's all. So I just see it on one side publicly, and then now we're sitting here in the board and I'm scratching my head going, man, I wonder what's about to happen, right? And then what's going to take place on the 5 freeway, on this freeway, on that freeway. So That's all. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Sanchez.
Thank you very much. I very much appreciate HOV through Oceanside. I think that was it's been our highest priority. I also appreciate that at a later time, we'll be talking about the impacts of SB 79, and that would help us to also kind of factor that into future discussions. And I know that we had been talking about maps because LA County has gone into doing maps already. So what I've been hearing is San Diego, Vista, and Oceanside are the ones that would be most likely.
Mario, at his intro,
impacted.
you weren't here quite yet, but he he said that we are working on our maps because we're one of the first, and that we're hopefully going to be leading the discussion. And then we're already in touch with HCD. Yesterday, Antoinette was on a panel with HCD, and I forget who else it was.
CARB and the
CARB
CTC,
and
the California
CTC.
Transportation
Yeah,
Commission.
Yeah,
Thank you. I do apologize. I was late.
I know you had a
Had
very important.
a very special Laurel Elementary Hall of Fame event to attend to.
You've been inducted.
I apologize, half an hour late. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. But thank you for the HOV lanes to be extended through Oceanside. And I'll discuss the last of the Coastal Rail Trail. I thought it was the last through Oceanside with staff. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah. So this is a discussion item only. Thank you for your comments. Again, this is sort of part of the entire relook that the agency is taking at our projects and how we deliver them instead of scattering money all over the budget in every little place and hiding it in nooks and crannies. Let's get some projects delivered. Again, none of these projects, these are really good 3 pages to keep. This is a really great handout. None of these are going away. It's just a matter of, what we're going to do first and how we're going to fund it and how we're going to work with the money that we have, give them what color it is, and then how we're going to be really clever. And I really like how you have synthesized what you heard from us, the practical phasing, the holding formula funds. I think that's super clever because sometimes if you park those funds there, it precludes other colors of money and other types of money from coming into those projects. So we're going to hold them somewhere to be determined how we're going to do that. And then the contingency and then the final of innovative funding strategies. I think this has really been well thought out, and I appreciate that we're going to see more projects delivered sooner. I'm going to turn it to Robin to kind of conclude.
I was going to give a recap, but I think you just did that.
Oh, okay.
I know it's somewhat of a nebulous item, but we really do want to take you step by step with us as we go through the thought process on how to fund and deliver projects. So what I'm hearing today, just like the chair just recapped, is we're heading generally in the right direction. It seems like we're hearing from the board, we're okay with smaller, faster projects to get those delivered sooner. And we're okay not committing funds too early so that we can have some flexibility going into the future.
Yep.
So with that, we will continue to now bring some decision action items to you. And that's when you'll start to see real numbers behind some of these projects going forward over the next year.
Okay.
Chair, is that why you don't want a motion at this time for 5.2?
If you're ready for 5.2, we would be happy to accept it. My understanding is we can take that motion and then we wouldn't need to bring it back to you at your next meeting.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Get back?
Yeah. No, let's take the motion now if we can.
I'll move the staff recommendation on 5.2.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion by LaCava, second by Duncan. Please vote.
Amberlyn, are we allowed?
Amberlyn, are we okay voting on this? And Alfred, are we okay voting on this? Oh, okay.
We're doing that. Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Do you have any idea when the Bayshore Bikeway in total is going to be completed? Because I know people have various issues with bike paths in parts of, the region, but that one is, one that's heavily used and doesn't seem to be controversial. And I know it's been work on it for quite a long time. I'm just curious, do we have an official, potential end date on that project?
Unfortunately, no. So right now they're meeting with CTC staff. So that Bayshore Bikeway, Barrio Logan section ran into some issues, right, and conflicts with some other projects out in construction. So we couldn't complete the last piece from the park to Beersley. We have worked with CDC right now to take that section out of the project that was with SB1 funds, right? So those all come with performance metrics, right? So we have to shorten those performance metrics. As part of that is talk to them in terms of what is our commitment to how to finish that piece. So right now that is actually listed in here as our strategy. We know we have to come back and figure out how to fund that last piece. So they're wrapping up construction here in the next couple of months. And the last piece is for what is currently in construction. We have phase 2 going, which will be the signal prioritizations at a couple of different locations that should be going out to bid here in the next few months. And then we have a piece that we're working on 32nd Street with the Navy that'll give where that bridge came down, pedestrian bridge, the right turn pocket and improvements in there. So those are funded and moving forward. And as part of this funding strategy, looking at how do we, the timing when the city wraps up the work there to come, when it is right to come back in and finish up that last segment.
All righty, thank you.
Before I go to Mayor Minto, please make sure you vote. We're missing Carlsbad, the county. Okay, Mayor Minto, you had another question or comment?
Well, actually, we have about 15 minutes left, so I thought I'd stretch this out a little bit.
No. The county objects. Okay, we're done. That was it. Okay, this concludes our meeting. The next Board of Directors meeting is November 21st at 9 a.m. Bye all.